Mr. Sepulveda, I have 5 o'clock. Please start the meeting.
Okay, we're ready to go. To call the regular meeting of Cobre Board of Education into session. It is 5 o'clock. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag, the state of New Mexico, is the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Please let the minutes show that I think all board members were on. Is Gabriel on right now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir, I'm on.
Okay, I couldn't see you there, Gabe. Please let the minutes show that all board members are present. Entertain a motion for approval of agenda items.
Gomez, so moved.
Gilbert, I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Gomez. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm having a little trouble here. My volume's all the way up and I can't hardly hear you at all. So motion by Mr. Gomez, second by Mr. Juliana. Any corrections to the agenda?
Oh, Mr. President, members of the board, a point of order here, please. And all of you hopefully are aware that the governor has sent out an order that we are to remain shut down and only remote. We cannot open the schools until past January 18th. So with that order in mind, Sally Marcus has also said that we're still continuing with athletics, possibly to open February 1st. Okay, so with that in mind, a lot of these agenda items should not be discussed tonight, in my opinion, because we're gonna get a lot of changes upcoming here Thursday with the secretaries, superintendents, and the PED meeting. At that time, they're gonna give us further instructions. Number one, there's this thing about 10% testing for COVID that we must self-administer, and we must have 10% of our staff tested prior to January 18th. Otherwise, we won't be able to open for, say, virtually or to bring in special ed kids as needed. Now, we're also, the review status under A, unfinished business, the Ready, that is updated with the latest that they had, but we've been told there's different and more recommendations coming. So for example, under update on unfinished business A, I would recommend that we table and bring this back to the next meeting, which is January 11th, with the updated information. And further recommend that on the reopening of pods, administration A, that we wait for Nelson to get further updates on what's going to happen in terms of coaching testing and when he can officially open to bring them back on pods. And also if we're still holding on football, basketball, and I think it's cross country opening up in February 1st. So fall also B, I'd like to table at this time under the administration, and then also band sectionals at Marine and our band director we're going to talk about today. We don't know if we'll be able to do that. So my recommendation, if the board would agree to, is that we table A under update unfinished business, A, B, and C on administration, and we bring those with the most current updates on January 11th in anticipation of our January 19th, either continue in remote or whatever the governor and the state, as well as, you know, we continue to be red and our numbers are still holding steady, if not climbing, on our COVID situation. So that is my recommendation, members of the board, for you to consider.
Okay, we'll have a little time to think of that as we go down. Any other comments on the agenda?
Wouldn't this be the time to talk about that as to whether it's going to stay on the agenda or not?
I didn't hear you,
No.
Mr. Can you speak
When we
up,
get
Mr.
down,
Guardiana? You
when we
didn't.
get down to it, we will. Okay,
Okay, so the agenda stands as it. Okay.
okay. So entertain a motion for approval of the meetings of November the 9th.
Mr. President, we didn't vote on the approval of the agenda.
Going back. Entertain a approval of the agenda. And we did that. Okay. Any other comment? Call for the vote. All those in favor for that.
Wait a minute,
start.
this is for the agenda?
This is-
I have comments
This
on
is
the
for
agenda.
approval of the agenda.
Yeah, I have comments on the recommendation of removing items.
Well-
I would not like to see update on unfinished business with review of the status of the school reentry and readiness. That's something that we wanted to have on the agenda every month at least. And this is the only meeting in December. We should have that. We have a bunch of information that we received. And to keep kicking the can down every time there's going to be a change, we'll never get to hear anything. And that's always the ultimate excuse for not doing anything is, oh, we're waiting for the next changes. They put together a fairly comprehensive document now. I hope we've reviewed it and can comment on it, and we can make adjustments to reflect the changes. The changes won't require a whole new compilation of the policy or practices. They will be just nuances that we can address more effectively. But to completely put it off would forego any opportunity now to make some adjustments based on the information that we did receive. And we shouldn't delay that. And it's a practice that has put us behind the 8 ball from the very beginning. Oh, we're going to wait for new instruction. And I assure you, in January, there's going to be new instruction coming up in February and March.
I think Mr. Mendoza said that he would like to table A, B, and C. He did not say nothing about D.
He said, no, he said on section 2, update of unfinished business, he wanted to table A, which is the review of status of school reentry readiness program. Is that correct, Mr. Mendoza?
Yes, that's correct.
And,
Yes, sir.
and that's what I'm opposing. I don't mind the other
Okay, and
ones.
then I also recommended under administration A, B, and C.
Yeah, and that I'm less opposed to because those are less comprehensive. And actually, we haven't reviewed anything on them now anyway. So it's not like that's open for any constructive discussion on our part.
I'm okay with that, but I just still say that just be ready for more changes because they warned us this morning in the
Oh,
superintendent's meeting. I'm just being upfront.
No, I understand, but again, we've have a comprehensive document that somebody put together, and that's a good
Sure.
starting point for us to review. And I would like to go on with a review of it.
Well, that's why I put it up there.
This is Gabe, and I'd be opposed to removing those from the agenda as well. I mean, it seems like we could just get the most up-to-date information. We're not making a decision to jump right back into school right now or sports. We just want to get the update. So I think it's prudent to just keep them on the agenda.
Okay. We'll go back to just approval of the agenda. Call for the vote. Gabe?
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana?
Yes.
Mr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Cordova?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of November 9th.
I'll move. This is Gilbert.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second.
Frank Cordova, second.
Second by Mr. Cordova. Any corrections to the minutes? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin?
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana?
Yes.
Mr. Gomez?
Yes.
Cordova?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries. Entertain a motion for approval of the special minutes of the special meeting of November 16th.
I'll move. This is Gilbert.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second.
Gomez, second.
Second by Mr. Gomez. Any corrections to those minutes? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin?
Voice.
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana?
Yes.
Mr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Cordova?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carries. Moves us to item A on update on unfinished business.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, members of the board, under review of status of school reentry readiness, this is a report. And I have Joyce Varela. Would you please come forward?
Mr. President, members of the board, in looking at the update on the reentry, New Mexico PED did require a delay in returning to in-person learning after winter break. They did ask that all buildings shut down for 2 weeks. And during those 2 weeks, we are required to do surveillance testing on 10% of our staff each of those 2 weeks. Only those districts that are operating in remote may resume after those 2 weeks. So schools who are in remote are not eligible for re-entry under the current requirements. And that's because our county is red at this time. That is revisited every 2 weeks by the state. So this Wednesday is when we might have an update on whether we move from red to yellow or possibly even green. So depending on where we are this 2 weeks and then the next 2 weeks will determine when we'd be able to possibly open for face-to-face instruction during the hybrid model. So closing for those 2 weeks as required by the state, as long as we do the 10% surveillance testing on our staff, we would be able to resume in a 5-to-1 with the small groups in K through 12 and 5-to-1 small groups for K through 2 and then special ed K through 12, but no earlier than January 18th. As far as surveillance testing, we're not worried about that as a district. We know that we will easily be able to meet the 10% because we have been doing surveillance testing of all staff for the last 3 months. And on average, we're testing 17 to 21% of our staff on a weekly basis. The only thing that's going to change as far as surveillance testing is that the state is going to transition to a VAULT, V-A-U-L-T, a VAULT program for surveillance testing beginning January 4th. So what will happen is we will be ordering test kits by sending an email to New Mexico PED, and then what they will do is they will ship us some keys, some links that we will have to send to each staff member. Each staff member will then register online and they will get a test kit shipped to their home. And when the staff member is testing, they will be on Zoom so that they can be observed doing the saliva test. And then the test will be shipped back via UPS. So right now we've been going to the Department of Health to do our testing. So that'll change in January 4th. So we will be ordering those links this week so that when January 4th comes, we will have those tests already in our staff members' hands so that we can make sure that we meet the 10% for those 2 weeks. As far as the reentry plan, we did give you all a copy of it. You will notice on the front page, cover page, it says V1.3, and that's because this is the third version of this reentry plan. So the updates were based on New Mexico PED, updated reentry guidance, and the elementary toolkit. The latest reentry guidance was updated on November 30th by PED. Mainly what we did in the plan was we moved things around. We made it more comprehensive and more user-friendly. Some of the main changes that PED made that were added to our reentry plan is they added the importance of specific counties meeting criteria. Prior to this revised reentry plan, it was based on the state, all being ready to go back reentry or hybrid or face-to-face, but now it's based on each county meeting the criteria. The other big change is that when we do bring students back for face-to-face learning, they are required to remain in cohorts or pods throughout the full day. They eliminated the face shield as a standalone option. And then they did require supervised mask breaks throughout the day. And then for transportation, they asked that the buses skip rows and assign seats and require face masks. So those last two, they were in our original plan, even though that wasn't a requirement from the state at that point. So that didn't change as far as our plan is concerned. The revised plan will be posted on the district website and social media sites, and it will also be emailed to all staff and students. So also in addition to reentry, we do have PPE that will support our reentry. We did order a few additional supplies. We ordered some additional face shields and wipes. And then for our isolation rooms at each of the schools, we did order a stethoscope and an oximeter as well. Any questions?
Thank you, Joyce.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was on mute. I have a question. The document mentioned task force committee. Who was on the task force committee and how often did it meet?
We were meeting weekly, and then we've been meeting monthly. On the task force is Dr. Carrillo, myself, Mr. Mendoza, our nurses, all the principals, Tina from transportation, George, Tony Sosa was on there as well. Susie Marin. And then we had some teachers on the committee as well.
You said Tony Soto?
Tony Sosa, our attendance
Oh,
success,
Tony
our
Sosa.
attendance success initiative coach.
Okay. Were there any parents?
Oh, Alma was on there too. Some of our teachers were serving the double role as parent and staff member, teacher.
So technically, no, then no parents.
There were parents, but they served the dual role of parent and teacher. And we had Antoinette, Michelle Laguna, Jackie Gonzalez was on there as well. And they were recruited by principals.
Okay. Did you have cafeteria staff?
Alma?
Okay. Okay. When I looked at the Appendix B, where it had the schedules, You had the one for the elementary school, and there's not anything for the middle school and the high school yet, and that's obviously much more complicated. But in the elementary school, you had parts A. You have two groups, A and B, and so the teacher, the in-house teacher, there would be two teachers basically working on that. One person would be doing the well, can you explain that? Because that the way it reads to me, it looks like one teacher is going to be doing the in classroom, and another teacher is going to be doing the remote.
Right. No, sir. It would be the same teacher. So you'll notice, like on the schedule on Monday, the Monday schedule, the orange is showing the students who are face-to-face in the classroom. And then you'll notice that from 2 o'clock to 2:45, students that are face-to-face would be dismissed at 1:20. Then teachers would have their lunch. And then from 2 o'clock to 2:45, the teachers would check in with the students who were doing the online learning. So if you'll also notice during the online learning, which is we shift over to the green, while those students are at home, they will be doing their specials. So they'll have PE, art, music, and bilingual on the days that they're remote. So that when they are face-to-face, the classroom teacher will really be focusing on the language arts and the math block.
So when
to give additional time to those content areas.
So the contact with the teacher on the remote education is 45 minutes?
Yes, and then they'll have contact with the PE teacher, the art teacher, the music teacher, the bilingual teacher, and then their classroom teacher for 45 minutes. But if they are in the extended learning time and they're doing some of the after-school programs, then that's an additional hour of contact with whichever teacher is doing the programs. Because we do have extended learning time, so we are offering, even right now, we're offering after-school programs, enrichment, and remediation.
So at best, it would, well, let me see. You have from 2 o'clock to 2:45, the direct contact with the teacher, not direct, but the remote contact with the teacher. And then you have a break from 2:45 to 3:30 for teacher prep.
For those teachers that are not doing extended learning time. So for some of the teachers that'll be doing extended learning time, they will actually start at 3 o'clock because we are basically buying their prep time because those teachers are getting additional compensation for doing the extended learning time.
Okay, so then there's most of the students then well, how many? Is there a percentage of students that are going to be in the extended learning period, or is that all of the students?
It's open. So the after school is open for everybody. We do have students in there right now that had started since August, September. We started the after school programs. So the different programs have different numbers of students. So it just depends on what grade it is, whether it's math tutoring, reading tutoring, whether it's an enrichment. So there's different numbers in each of the different programs.
Okay, so at best, the remote students will be getting an hour and 45 minutes of instruction.
Direct instruction. So they'll have 30 minutes of PE, 30 minutes of art, 30 minutes of music, an hour of bilingual. They'll have that check-in time with their classroom teacher.
I don't see that in the schedule for the 30 minutes of each one of those that you just described.
If you look at 12 to 1 on the green section, it says bilingual. If you look at 1 to 1:30, it says PE. 1:30 to 2, it says art. And then the next day would be music. I'm on page 30, Mr. Guadiana.
Yes, I am too. I'm taking a look at that. Okay, 12.
If you look at the green section,
I see that now. I see that now. I was looking at the bottom part of the orange section. Okay, that clarifies a lot. That helps a lot. Thank you.
Okay, and we are, we do have the schedules for Mr. Avalos at the middle school and Miss Montoya at the high school. we've got their face-to-face, so we're working on refining and completing the remote portion of the day on their schedules. So we'll have those in January.
So in that, say the 8 o'clock for Group A and 8 o'clock in the morning for Monday for Group B.
Correct.
It's well, no, they're both ELA blocks. And
They're both ELA blocks. They're just doing different things. So like on the orange section, when the students are face-to-face, it'll be more direct teacher instruction, more small group, more individual, working with the students. Whereas on the other side, they'll be working on their computerized programs. They'll be doing iStation, Imagine Learning,
you're
and then
cutting
they'll
out really
be doing,
bad.
huh?
You were cutting out really bad.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. So during the face-to-face, like on the ELA block, the teachers will be doing whole group lessons. They'll be doing a lot of small group. They'll be doing a lot of individual work with students during that time. And then, so they may even do some assignments that they assign the students to do during their remote days. So then during the remote days, during the English language arts block, what the students will be doing is they'll be doing their computer programs. They'll do iStation. Bayard Elementary also has Spelling City, so those kids would be doing that. They would be doing Imagine Learning, and then any assignment that the teacher may have given them during the face-to-face days, that's when they would be doing those assignments. The same thing for the math block. It would be very similar. During the math block of the remote learning, they would be doing Moby Maths, and then any assignment that the teacher may have given them during that time. That's why at the end of the day, when the teacher checks in with them, if the students have any questions or need any additional support on any of their assignments, the teacher will be able to provide that to them.
So those activities you just described, with the exception of the teacher providing additional instruction, the students that are remote are doing that independently. They're not doing that with any interaction with classes, any other class members or?
Correct. It's
Okay.
independent. Mhm.
Okay.
That's why we wanted that direct teacher contact. That's why we put the specials and the bilingual on their remote days, so that every day they're having contact with classroom teachers. And it also allowed us the opportunity to increase the time for the language arts and the math block, so that when the teachers have those kids face to face, like I say, they can do a lot of direct teaching, a lot of working with kids in small groups and individually to help them with the concepts that they need support with.
That isn't the Cadillac version that I was hoping for, but I think it's a substantial version, and I think it has some promise to be successful. So I think that was very good work, and it won't go to the point of having the concurrent instruction, which would need the additional equipment, and so I'll kind of let that go to rest for a while.
Right.
But I'm sure we'll have opportunities to gauge its effectiveness. But I look forward to getting the other schedules for the middle school and high school, because that's a lot more challenging.
Yeah, and they will be similar, Mr. Guadiana, when we look at the middle school and high school schedule. The only thing is with the middle school and high school schedule, when they're in the face-to-face, they will see every teacher, so they will go to all their classes.
Okay. There were some things that I wanted to bring up on a general comment on the plan. And one is, if it is that a student comes and they start showing symptoms in a classroom, I see all the parts of where they're supposed to be taken out of the class, put in isolation. The head nurse, Mrs. Aguirre, Miss Aguirre would be responsible for contacting people that could have been exposed. But there's a requirement also to close the area for which of the school that person was found in. And I don't see
depending on the symptoms that the person is having. Yes, that's what we would want to do, so that we would have time to clean that area.
But the time to clean that area would be 24 hours after the exposure, and
Correct.
then still even more longer before you allow people to go in. And how is it we're going to address a classroom in such a case?
So the principals at each of the buildings, it may look a little different at each building, but each principal in each building will have a contingency plan of where they can move those students to if they need to relocate them to another room, another part of the building.
Well, that's only half of it because the students themselves would have been exposed. So do you keep them
And
at
that's-
school?
Well, it's going to depend, Mr. Guadiana, because every situation would be different. It would be dependent on what the symptoms are that the person has. You know, if we do find out that the person is positive, then yes, you know, we do need to absolutely contact every one of those parents of those students and follow the protocols.
And that's where my question goes. So say the person tests positive, then all students that were then exposed to that would have to isolate, including the teacher.
Correct. That
And-
is correct. And that's Mr. Guadiana, that's actually what we've already been doing. We've been doing that for a couple of months, even with our small groups.
So the question is, what is the contingency plan in case a teacher does have to be off? Because there's going to be half of the other students that are not affected. And if that teacher is going to be isolating, what's going to happen when they come to do in person?
So we would have to have a sub, just like, you know, we've always done. We'd have to have a sub to help cover those kids. If the teacher has to be out, but the students will be in the building, then we would have to cover them with someone else.
Okay, and with the changes now that the testing is going to have to go to Albuquerque or Santa Fe, wherever it's going, is that going to make the delay even longer for getting the results?
No, we actually had a follow-up phone call with Greg Frostat, and there's some of the districts that have been piloting this at-home testing, and they're saying that they're getting the results within 48 hours of when they ship it. So they're saying that the results have even been faster than when we're going through DOH.
Good. Okay.
And so they're actually recommending that we test at the beginning of the week. That way you have your results by the end of the week.
Okay. Let's see, what are some of the other things? I won't go through each line item. Since we're not going to be doing anything, I'll send you these comments in writing, and then that way we can get ready for the next, but another observation.
And that'd be good because this is a living document.
Yeah.
And so, you know, as changes happen, we will be making those changes. That's why we put the version on there, so we'll always know which is the most updated version of this document.
Okay. So a couple other things were like looking at the list of cleanup items. Are we satisfied? Like, for instance, custodians have a ton of stuff to clean up. And are we a lot of the schools only have one custodian. Are we comfortable?
One school has one.
Huh?
Only one school has one custodian.
Okay.
Two schools, sorry.
And especially in those schools, but even in all the schools, do we have an idea of what to do if one of them has to isolate for a while or become sick?
It would be the same thing, Mr. Guadiana, where we would have to hire subs.
Do we have subs for the janitorial?
We have some people on our sub list currently, yes, sir.
Okay. The one thing I saw that was kind of there's two things actually that I saw that weren't mentioned a lot. It's not until page, what was it? Not until page 21 is there a reference on students that have waivers to not wear masks or have conditions that a doctor says not to wear masks. And I really think that should be a little bit more prominently up in front. But there's also a contradiction. There's one that says that those that wear masks can wear face shields. I mean, can't wear masks can wear face shields. But
that was removed. That was one of the updates that the state made on the revision is face shields standalone are not acceptable. So you'll notice on page 21, what it's saying is if they do have a medical reason for not being able to wear a face mask, that we would encourage them to go remote, because we have to have a face mask even if you have a face shield.
Yeah, and that's actually page 22. And that is even, what I saw there was even, I thought was much better, was that we're not required to have them attend school. That if it is that the students are posing a risk, a health and safety risk to anybody else, we actually don't have to accommodate their requests for school. And I was,
We would accommodate them through remote learning. So we would still provide their education. It would just be remotely.
Yes, but we didn't have to accommodate them in person.
Face to face.
Yeah,
correct.
And I'm happy about that. And I would really like to see that more prominently and way up in front, so that people don't say, well, that didn't say it. And we say, oh yeah, look here at page 21 or whatever the case is. And the other part was we had on page 13 talking about temperature checks not necessarily being required before boarding the bus. And yet there's another section that says on page 23 that they need to be screened. So just an inconsistency.
That was a district decision, in working with our task force, that we would screen our students prior to getting on the bus.
Okay. The other thing that I said that's kind of universal is, what about staff or parents or staff or students that go outside of the state? And we know about that. And do we have staff that work outside of the state? I mean, that live outside of the state, coming to school or to work? And how is that reflective on how it is they ensure that?
That is an exception through PED, because there are a lot of districts, a lot of school districts that are on the border between two states. And so they do allow district employees to cross the state lines to come to work. That is an exception.
Are there any protocols that they need to follow?
It would just be the same protocols as everyone else. There wouldn't be anything different.
Okay. Okay, the rest of the stuff I can send you.
Okay.
You can go by that. But thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your comments and responses. Thank you, Joyce. We'll just do the next one, Mr. Mendoza.
Yes, sir. Item on update on our bonds. At this time, Terry, are you on?
I'm here. Hi,
Okay, can you
everybody.
please go ahead and proceed, please.
Hello, Terry.
So just in a nutshell, pretty much for bonds, phase one projects, the only ones left incomplete are the Hurley Elementary Portable, which is nearing completion. We've got contracts for the ramps, for the skirting, and those are the only two that I know of that are still outstanding, and that we're working through those. We also have a finalization on a payment for Zacaton, which was the restrooms. And so that finalizes that project. So all projects final except for Hurley Elementary Portable and the gyms. So with that, I have the latest report from the New Mexico Finance Authority on the balance of the bonds. For phase one, we have $1.2 million and change. And on phase two, we've got just a little less than $20,000. So what we have to make decisions on, and we are working towards getting the architects back in. So we've got $1.2 million, and the main thing that we need to get going on figuring out are the gyms. So Mr. Peru and I, we met with procurement. We meet every week now. on Tuesdays, and we go through, what projects. So our latest is that we want to bring the architects back in and see what we can get done with the 1.2 based on the pricing of the materials and the labor at that point. So Mr. Peru and I are here to entertain questions on those bond projects.
Move this to
In terms of
administration.
in terms of the outstanding projects, the two gyms, obviously $1.2 million isn't going to be enough to cover both, I would think.
Correct. No.
So are we doing a pricing of one versus the other so we can kind of see, or if either one of them viable?
Yeah, so the one that's viable more likely is going to be Central. One of the things is the one at the high school is much bigger and would need more space for what we're looking at, because of the wrestling and the basketball. So it would probably be a lot more. Taking it back to the architects, we'll find out, because we were going to look at see what the cost would be for the smaller one and what the cost would be for the bigger one, so we can make a decision and then go from there. We're hoping to bring the architects back into it right after the Christmas holidays.
Okay, and then we'll get a report on that and be involved in making the final decision as to which one goes.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Correct.
Okay.
All righty.
Thank you, Terry.
And where's the elementary school, the Hurley Elementary, the playground? Where are we with that? And when is that?
We're on hold right now. I visited with the contractor that has the skirting. He has not been able to get the skirting done. The skirting is in El Paso. It's been there for like 3 weeks, he said. He told me the other day. He has not been able to go down. He's been worried about the numbers down there. So he said he was going to try and go down this week and pick it up. It's at Mueller. He ordered it through Mueller. So he's going to go pick it up, because the one that handles the one that has the contract to do the ramps is ready to go. He's been ready to go for a little bit. So I told the one that's doing the skirting that, we need that skirting finished up so we can get the ramps done and get those things going, so we can get that building finished up and get it going for the school.
Has it been leveled yet?
He was going to level it when he puts a skirting. He's the one that's going to do that leveling also, sir.
Man, that's like 3 months and it's still at the same status.
Yes, sir.
What about
the virus? Those guys don't want to move.
Well, let's
Coming from
just
El Paso.
it's been 2 years and so many months. But do we have anything at least temporary so it's a safe entry into there as opposed to the cinder blocks?
We have not put anything, sir, because as soon as we get those ramps on, we'll be good. Nobody should be entering the building. We were actually going to remove the blocks, but some of the other people went in, because I met on Friday evening with the one that's doing the intercoms and also the fire protection. He went in Friday evening. We went in there and we looked at everything. So that's why we had left them. So, but we were thinking of removing them because nobody else is going in there. He also mentioned, one of the things, because I told him that, the board, we give you guys a report every time we do the board meeting, and that we were really concerned because we hadn't been able to get these things done. And he said, one of the things that's really holding us up is we're going to probably proceed with the work. I sent the stuff to the fire marshal's office months and months ago. They still have not looked at it on the plans. He goes, so we asked if we could just go ahead and do the work, and then they can come in and inspect it. And then after they look at the prints, because they have not looked at the prints yet for any of our projects for Bayard and for Hurley. Because at Bayard, we're looking at doing the fire also and intercoms into that portable.
So that portable in Hurley is going to be a critical site for the COVID thing, because that's going to be the isolation room. Where are we in terms of thinking that that's going to be a complete finished project by February? Is that a reality, or do we need to start looking at or should we be looking at a plan B?
We should probably look at a plan B, in case we're not able to get all the material here. I know that the one that's doing the ramps, he already ordered the material. So, he probably, I don't know if he has it at his place or what, but he has some of it is at the location, but some of it might be at his place already.
Hurley
he was ex-
Elementary already has an alternate location to use as an isolation room.
Where is that?
They have a Plan B already. It would be right across from the bilingual room. There's an empty classroom that was used for the 3Y. That would be the alternative site that they have for an isolation room.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Joyce.
Not to interrupt here, but the greenhouse for San Lorenzo Elementary is being delivered Thursday from Mueller. And I don't know if it's possible to put any other supplies on that truck to bring up. But just FYI, we have a truck coming in from Mueller on Thursday delivering the greenhouse.
Thursday,
So
okay.
there are other supplies that need to come. Just you might see if they can throw them on that truck while they're coming.
All right, thank you, Mr. Corey. Thanks for letting me know.
You bet.
I will
Thank you,
contact
Mr.
the
Corey.
contractor tomorrow so we can get that going.
Okay, and I don't want to stretch Hurley too much in terms of saying, okay, we have Plan B, but then if we do that, the things where somebody is found out to have COVID and we have to change rooms or something, that's probably one of the other options that's available for that room too. So knowing that the virus is spreading at the rate it's spreading, that I would really like to have them as much options as possible. But I'm concerned about not putting any stairways, even on a temporary basis, just some wood, some made out of wood to go in and out. If somebody falls in that, and I'm surprised because those blocks are really unstable. If somebody falls getting in and out, and I suppose there's going to be people going in and out doing some repairs to that building. If somebody falls, we're subject to a great deal of liability for not having a safe access to it. And I don't think, I think the amount of money spent on a wood temporary staircase would be well worth the protection that we get from it, from having any such accidents happen.
Okay, I will have somebody just put some stairs in, sir. I know you asked me about it before, so what I'll do is I'll just get our carpenter to just go and build some stairs for us, even if they're like 3 feet wide. That way we have something different than besides the blocks. I will have him do that this next week.
I would appreciate that. Is there anything else going to go on to the playground itself? Because Hurley has one of the saddest playgrounds there is in the district.
Right now, I know we don't have anything in the plans right now. I know that we have to bring in some more bark and things like that, but I know we don't have anything on the pre-K. Do we, Mr. Mendoza?
Let me,
You're muted, sir.
You're on mute, Mr. Mendoza. You're muted.
okay, Terry, isn't it part of what we were working on today on Senate Bill 9? Wasn't that
Yes,
one of the projects? It was,
The Hurley playground is one of the SB 9 proposals.
The only thing I saw on Hurley was the roof.
no, it's on there, Mr. I'm
It's on
looking at
there.
it. It's on there. You had us do some cosmetic to it, but it's in there. I'm looking at it.
It is on there.
It's in there for 22, 23.
Okay. 5,000? When you compare Hurley Elementary's playground to like Bayard Elementary or Central Elementary, granted, Mimbres is kind of in the same straits as Hurley. They're not level playgrounds, no pun intended. So I would hope we have more discussion on bringing those up to the standards that the other schools have. There's no reason they should meet the same equipment and ground cover as the other schools.
Are you talking about a pre-K playground or the regular playgrounds?
The regular playground,
Okay.
and including pre-K if that's the case. But that's jumping ahead on the, well, no, it isn't. I guess this is on the topic now.
Yeah, well, that's something that we can certainly put on there when we do the final thing on the thing for Senate Bill 9.
Okay.
Okay, that moves us on to administration, Mr. Mendoza.
Okay, Mr. President, more members under A, reopening of pods. Mr. Diaz, are you on? Nelson?
I thought you had said, Mr. Mendoza, that we were gonna table A, B, and C.
But
I understood that you voted the agenda as straight through, did you?
Yeah, we approved the agenda with no modifications.
Okay.
Nelson, please.
Yes, so we were looking at wanting to reopen pods, and once again, there's been some few changes at the state level, and I think you've heard a lot of these changes. So what we were going to be asking was that we need to consider a timeline based on the fall sports restart. We're looking at a fall sports restart of February 1st. So like I've said in the past, we plan with moving forward. So until the state has said no, or our board has made a decision, we have to plan like we're moving forward. So based on the new on the changes that the NMA has made in moving certain sports around, I feel at this time we would need, in order to return safely, in order for our kids to compete safely, we would need a start date of at least January 18th to reopen pods. We know that there's going to be a few other changes coming along, so that time may change, but that's what we were looking at. We would like to have pods reopen January 18th, so that we can ensure that we're at least getting our kids reconditioned in case that we do, or that the state does agree to continue moving forward with athletics. Now, the state has not made a decision. The governor has not made a decision whether or not she will allow sports to even happen in February. Just kind of the same situation that we were with volleyball, and the cancellation of that, or the lack of approving that sport. But that we have to consider moving forward, because that has not been canceled yet. So in moving forward safely, we ask that we would be allowed to reopen on January 18th.
The only thing that I say, Mr. Diaz, that by January 18th, and then get our guys in condition and in time to set up some plays and all of that, they're going to get hurt. So to me, that is not enough time to get these guys in condition and ready to play.
Yes, sir. I agree.
That's my comment on it.
Between January 18th and February 1st, it is not enough time. But fortunately, the first game would not be played until February 19th. I have it right here. Hold on a second. Yes, February 19th would be the first time that the boys would be able to get on. So the January 18th date to the February 1st would be conditioning only. We need to get them in shape before we get them doing anything else, because we do recognize that our athletes can get hurt, and we don't want that to happen. So if we are able to go within our pods, so our 4-to-1 pods, we can ensure that they start conditioning. Granted, the state and the NMA have not lifted those pod numbers and those pod sizes. So that leaves us with that question: how do we practice with a team that needs essentially 11 players all at once in order to be able to compete? We don't know that yet. But like I've always said, we have to plan like we're moving forward, and that's what we keep doing. And that's the way I have to plan. I have to plan like we are going to be playing in February. So based on that is why we were asking for that January 18th day start.
Okay. My other question is, if these kids do we have, if we have one kid that tests positive, and now that kid goes home and gives it to their parents, or some of these kids, majority of them are living with grandparents. Now they go home and they give it to an elderly person. Now that kid, what's he going to do when he's living with his grandparent? And then he ends up going out to a foster home, or where does he go now that his grandparents are sick? That is my concern.
Mr. Sepulveda, I totally agree with your concern. I mean, I do. We don't know what the state of, where we're going to be come January 18th. We don't know that. We don't know what's going to be happening in February. These concerns are your concerns are my concerns, believe me. But we have to consider that if this state moves forward, we are going to have to make a decision on that, right? The board is going to have to make a decision, which is possibly the next line item. So I don't think that maybe we need to make a decision today on whether or not we're going to play, but these are things that I think we need to start considering. Because if we do play, we want to do it safely, right? We want to keep our kids as safe as possible. We want to make sure that they are in the best condition possible to move forward, right? But at the same time, we also have to consider whether or not sports in February will even happen.
Yeah, and then my other concern on this is that I can't prove, but this is gossip that I've heard here and there, is that some of the kids are going out playing in like other tournaments that are going on, whether it's basketball, wrestling, or whatever. Some of these tournaments are open to any team that comes in. It doesn't have to be a representative of the school. And some of these kids are now going out there and doing it, and going out of state and doing it. But this is something that I've heard. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know.
It is a statewide concern, yes, and it is happening. I see Mr. Olguin, you have your hand up, and Frank, you have your hand up as well. I don't know if you had a question.
Go ahead, Gabe.
Go ahead, Gabe.
Okay, thank you. So I guess my question is sort of in the spirit of readiness. Nelson, Mr. Diaz, if you do get approved to start sports again, start pods again, are you going to be practicing outdoors, or are you going to want to practice indoors? And if you are, then if you are practicing indoors, is the school ready for that? Have we solved that ventilation issue that we've been talking about for months?
I don't think that the ventilation issue has been resolved just yet, but we would have to consider moving indoors. We would have our protocols in place. We have our sanitation. We would have all those things in place already. The one thing that we won't have is obviously the ventilation. Football is, it has a lot of participants. So, we have to consider how many kids we're going to be looking at. We have to consider the weather. So there are a lot of considerations, and football is not the only sport that's happening in February. We're also having to consider our cheer teams. Will they be able to compete? We have to consider our cross-country teams. So there's a lot of considerations moving forward in February. But as far as them being ready and prepared, we need to give them that time. So yes, I think we're caught between a rock and a hard place. We really are, because we want them to be safe all the way around, not just safe physically on the field, but safe physically with coronavirus and the things that are going. And we will have our protocols in place to mitigate as much as possible.
And we also, can I jump in real quick as well? This is Mrs. Peru. The other thing that we need to consider as well is allowing the parents to make some of those choices if they participate as well, because We do have the liability release and the acknowledgement of risk form as well that's out there. So, not all students are going to participate, and that's something that would be in the hands of the parents to make that decision as well.
Mr. Cordova.
Okay, with all due respect, we had a New Mexico Activities Association meeting a couple of weeks ago. And the main topic that was discussed there was the coaches along the borders, both north and southeast, and some in the southwest were talking about kids going on weekends to participate in Texas, in Arizona, in Colorado. And then when they were coming back, both them and their parents were actually not telling the truth to the athletic director and the coaches when they were asking, did you participate somewhere else? Meanwhile, the coaches had already seen their pictures on Facebook that they had participated somewhere else. So these kids are coming back to the pods and they're endangering the kids that are staying home and practicing. And I don't know if that's exactly what happened at Hobbs. All of you heard what happened to the high school football player at Hobbs that passed away. And they were one of the main coaches that were considering not having any practice because of that. Even though, like Mrs. Peru is saying, the parents are the ones that make the decision. But if they're coming out and they're making it dangerous for all the rest of the kids, that's not good. The other thing that's happening is Mrs. Marquez. She's the director for the New Mexico Activities, and she's coming out and she is saying that she's not giving up on kids playing. And she is questioning the governor every day just about to let these kids go out and practice. And the governor, to my understanding, has said no, and especially no on indoors practicing. And we're bound by that. We have to be bound by that for the safety of not just our kids, our coaches, our parents, and like Toy says, our grandparents or whoever they live with. Thank you.
I don't disagree. I really don't disagree with anything that you guys are saying. But my job is to ensure that the safety of our kids when they go back to play sports. So with that consideration, I mean, there's decisions here that are beyond the scope of what I'm saying here. Because you're right, everything you're saying, those are the things that are happening across the state. We don't have sports here, so parents are looking elsewhere. And the reason they're looking elsewhere is because they have kids that have potential to get scholarships, and they're not going to get that here. So they are looking elsewhere. I'm not disagreeing. I really am not disagreeing with anything that you're saying, but it's a hard decision that we have to make. The only thing that I can say is that we will follow the protocols of mitigating the situations as much as we can. Are we going to prevent everything? We are not.
Mr. Guadiana?
Regarding the waiver that students and parents sign, it doesn't relieve us of a lot of the responsibility, even in the cases of people going across the state. If we know they're going across the state and we allow them to practice, then we have some accountability for that. How much, I don't know. But what particularly concerns me is we know that the ventilation system is not meeting a standard. If we go indoors, we are knowingly putting, especially football teams that are not going to be able to social distance, we're putting them at risk, and knowingly, and that bothers me. And what is the update on getting the ventilation system for the gyms ready?
Okay, and I was going to jump in as soon as I had an opportunity. One of the things is we had to turn in a new schedule on those MRF 13s and why they wouldn't work in our systems. And from what I'm understanding is in the state of New Mexico, 90% of the districts, their systems will not accommodate those MRF 13s because they're so dense and thick. One of the things that we looked at, Jaime Treviso and myself, is we're looking at some Ream Halos with their air purification system. systems. I sent the information to the people that sent for all that information from us. I sent to them to see if they would approve something like that for us, because it would be a better way to go. Our systems, we could keep our same systems instead of having to spend thousands of dollars to replace all our systems as they go bad. The Ream Halo actually goes in the ductwork right next to the system, and it air purifies all the air. So if we can get those, and what we're reading on them is if we can get those, it'll help us when it's flu season or whatever, because the air gets sterilized and gets purified before it enters the classrooms or into the offices. And that's what we sent up there to see if they would approve for us to do something like that. And, I also sent the cost, because in visiting with the company, the cost is about $500 a unit, so to accommodate that, and I think I mentioned before, it'll, like, the high school needs 62 units, so we're looking at like $31,000 to $32,000 just to do the high school, for example. So, roughly, we're looking at some, it's going to be some money, but it's not going to be as expensive as we have to replace units, because each unit can run to anywhere between $5,000 and $7,000.
Isn't that where we were last month?
Yes, but we haven't gotten an answer from the state. I sent it to PSFA, and I also sent it to the PED people that are working on the MERV 13s. I sent it to both of them, and I haven't gotten the response back from them.
Thank you, Mr. Peru.
Cordova.
Mr. Cordova.
Okay, one of the things that I wanted to bring up is with our athletic director, Mr. Diaz, aren't we discussing football?
We are discussing football. We're
If
discussing.
we're discussing football, don't they play outside? Why do they have to be indoors? Cross country, where do they participate at? Outdoors. And
But we're also considering, volleyball.
if you have bad weather, you don't bring them in to play the game in the gym.
No, I don't disagree. But we do have volleyball as well to consider in February.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Diaz. Mr. Mendoza.
The administration recommends that we still table any action on this, and we can discuss it on the 11th. And we still have a few dates before the 18th, and see what the governor and the secretary tells us on Thursday. That's a recommendation.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Frank Cordova, I move for that.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, second.
I'll second. This is Gilbert.
Mr. Guadiana, second. Any other questions or comments? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin.
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana.
Yes.
Mr. Gomez.
Yes.
Cordova.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion passes. That's tabled. Item B.
Okay, item B, fall sports restart. Nelson Diaz, please.
So we're kind of in the same situation. I think one is a product of the other. We need to be able to have kids start being able to have conditioning and get ready to go with sports. I don't know that. I think this is another situation that we may have to table to see what happens further along when we get closer to February. But it really, I would hate to put somebody at risk because we held on too long and then decided that we're going to play. So I think we need to look at this in May and possibly consider the winter sports and whether or not we would be able to actually play. I think the more the weeks get further into February, the less safe I believe that they become, and puts our athletes at a bigger risk physically. And so that's why I think that that's something that we need to look at. So I think what I was saying is a January 18th start date would ensure that the safety of our kids, because we would get that time. But the further along we push that, the less feasible I believe that having winter sports would be. So that's just my take on that.
With that being said, go ahead, Mr. President, members of the board. I still am not comfortable with pushing us to have approval here. The fall sports, we still have time to listen to the secretary and the governor for this week, and then pick it up on the 11th. To just be extra caution on approval to start. And maybe by then, Mr. Peru would have heard something about the air conditioning, the ventilation for our facilities. So the administration recommends we table this, bring it back up on the 11th for a final
You heard the
decision.
recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Gomez, so moved.
Who was that moved?
Gomez.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second.
Cordova, second.
Second by Mr. Cordova. Any other questions or comments?
I've got a question, Mr. President. Okay, we're talking about the sports. It might be something to think about or maybe talk about later, but with the amount of time that we have and the amount of students that we have participating, we might not be able to accommodate all sports. So we might have to choose some of the sports and leave some of the sports out because our kids are going to get hurt. For example, if you've got a kid that wants to play football and he wants to weigh about 170, 175 pounds, and then he wants to come and wrestle at about 110 pounds or 120 pounds, you don't have that much time to lose that weight, and we're really gonna hurt him. So that's for discussion later on. Thank you.
Mhm.
Other comment?
I agree.
Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin,
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana,
Yes.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes.
Mr. Cordova,
Yes.
myself, yes. Motion passes. That's tabled. Item C, I'm sorry.
This is in reference to band sectionals. Maureen, can you start us out, please?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board. We just wanted to let you know, I know Mr. Diaz has a video on the protocols as far as the band sectionals go, but we did want to let you know that all of the PPE that was needed for the band has been received. For example, the masks for the instruments and the masks for the students. Everything has been received. And so all of the logistical things in that realm have been taken care of. Mr. Diaz, I don't know if you want to show the video or.
It's about a 6-minute video, and then if there's any questions after that, Mr. Gearhart is on. He's more of the expert on that. So if you don't mind directing your questions to him after the video, if you have any. So at this time, I will ask Mr. Burnett, he's on with us right now, to please share his video.
Mr. Gerhart here. Going to talk to you a little bit about the music-specific masks we have for the instruments. I've got my mask on because I have Cobre's best technical advisor, Mr. Trey Burnett, behind the camera over there, helping me out today. So I appreciate him. So the nation conducted a aerosol and water droplet study that took months when COVID first hit back in February, March. They released those findings in late summer, early fall. And that study was conducted by the National Association of Music Educators, the National Federation of High School Sports, New Mexico Music Educators was involved, along with the NMAA. All of those went together out of Colorado, the universities, and they did a global study on what would be safe for musicians. And they concluded that the water droplet and aerosols needed to be contained among musicians using several different things. That instruments needed a bell cover, and musicians needed to be able to play with a mask. Now, playing with a mask and getting the mouthpiece to the musician and keeping a mask on is the big trick. So we did get those purchased, and we're going to show you kind of how those work. Any instrument that's brass or flute and clarinet, even the big tubas, have bell coverings that come on and off. And we have instrument-specific masks. We're going to start with the flute-specific mask. These are all custom to the instrument. So the flute mask has slits on both sides with some reinforcement, and it allows the back to be open for the instrument. So the flute player slides the flute through. I think it's easier when the mask is actually on the individual, that since I don't want to infect it. So the face would be covered, and on the back side, the player has access to the mouthpiece. So all the water droplets are contained inside the mask. So that's how the flute works, which is kind of pretty unique, actually. The woodwinds for the saxophones, all saxophones and clarinets, is a little bit different. There's a reinforcement right here. What makes all these masks safer than, you would think just cut a hole in the middle, well, then the aerosol can still escape out. These are all designed from the side. So the player actually has to enter from the side of the mask and then angle through a slit or an opening, which makes this L pattern so the water droplets and aerosol can get contained rather than just leak out. Does present a little bit of a challenge for the player, but we'll work through that. So the woodwinds will have to enter from the side. And it'll stay there on the front. And on the back side, just the mouthpiece is exposed on the player's end again. So everything is contained underneath the mask and there's no leakage out. This is the same for the saxophone players as well. And the brass are very similar to the woodwinds, but the slit is in a little different position. So the brass players have to enter from the side, and the hole is just a little bit more central. So the mouthpiece can go through and keep everything secure on this side. So the mouthpiece stays there. So that's kind of how they all work. Percussion have a mask, but it's just a mask. Okay, there's no holes because they don't use anything to breathe, so they would have that. The masks are on the chairs, the bell covers are on the chairs, as you can see, assigned to the students. All of the masks and bell coverings are machine washable, and we'll have those sanitized by the students at their houses. Basically, the masks we're using right here are designed by somebody at New Mexico State University. Actually, I believe it was a student, and they took it to the engineering department. They got it all figured out. These are smart people. And then they're manufactured in Las Cruces. So we helped out our state. And actually, these masks are the same being used by all the Las Cruces public schools, New Mexico State University, and several other universities across the country. Currently, they're in application with university bands who are performing. So they are tested and working out really, really well. So we're glad that New Mexico could help with that. And we did choose the red to, it's a school color, but we also decided, my wife and I decided that when the kids are trying to hunt for their bell covering or their mask or something, that black, and there's a mouthpiece in there, and it's kind of hard to see, but the red would be easy for the students to find. So we figured that would be an added bonus for the student, and it would give a little bit of color to what we're doing. So we feel pretty confident with our procedures, with the masks in place and the bell coverings, all machine washable. And hopefully with the unique patented designs here of the sideways motion that really keeps the water droplets in place. So hopefully that video was educational to how these masks are used and how they're going to keep our players safe.
So just a little, just to add a little more of that situation, we were also considering band in that startup date, because we all know that this is their season as well. So we'd also have to consider band moving indoors as well, to be able to practice, to be able to do those things. So that's also a consideration. So at this time, if you had any questions, Mr. Gearhart, send it over to you.
That sounds real good. The only problem is, no, we can't do nothing until after the 18th.
That's correct. That's the date that we were talking about. Yes.
Okay,
Mr.
Mr.
Mendoza?
Diaz, we, as administration, we thank you for the video. It's very self-explanatory, and Mr. Gerhardt, thank you for thinking of our kids, and getting all that protection. But the administration at this time would like to table this and discuss it and provide an answer on the 11th. And that gives us a chance to see what comes up with the governor and the Secretary of Education. So the recommendation is again to table and let's put it on the board agenda for the 11th.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Hey, Mr. Sepulveda, this is Gabe. I feel
Go ahead,
like I
Gabe.
feel very good about what was presented to us there. The precautions that are taken and the way that those coverings contain the water droplets. It looks like Mr. Gerhardt's really done his homework, and it looks pretty fail-proof to me. I actually don't support tabling this and would like to make a vote on this today.
Okay.
One thing that the administration cautions, though, Mr. Sepulveda, and with all due respect, Mr. Holguin, we don't know if we'll be able to open up come after the 18th still, because we have to do all the employee testing and so forth. And I don't mind Mr. Gerhardt being allowed to open up, because he certainly provided us with extra what's going on. But I just say let's. I don't mind approving it, but at this time, I recommend we still table, and then we come back on the 11th. And again, remember, we have to comply with the CDC recommendations, and it's 4-1 or 5-1, Nelson.
It's still 4-1.
4-1, yes.
But you heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Frank Cordova, so move.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, second.
Gomez, second.
Second by Mr. Gomez. Any other discussion?
I just wanted
I've
to
got a
thank,
couple.
I would like to thank Mr. Gerhardt for being ready, and I'm kind of with Gabe on this. It'd be nice to be able to approve something at this point, but I understand waiting.
Okay, Mr. Cordova.
I had again, I want to thank our band director for doing all the research and getting the material ready. I've got a couple of questions. I've got one question, and all the reports and all that I've been hearing, they instruct you to put your mask on and do not touch it while it's on your face. Do not touch it unless you are going to remove it. Are these a little bit different than the regular masks?
I would think the only difference is that the student in our current situation will come in, they sanitize, they go immediately to their station, whether that's inside or outside to be determined. And that mask will be on them when they arrive, and they don't leave. So the only person and only things they're touching are their things. It's not like they're be going to Walmart and touching items on shelves and then adjusting their mask. Everything that they have touched will be of their own personal nature or coming from their own house. So I think it is a little bit different, Mr. Cordova, in its thing, but at the same time, it's the safety is all on them. They won't be allowed to go to their lockers for anything. Doors are open when they come in. They don't have to touch any doorknobs or anything like that. So everything that they do touch, and then if they touch their mask, is themselves, basically.
Thank you.
Mr. Cordova, one of the things too is that as a district, we do have lanyards. So like even when we take a mask break, and even like Mr. Gearhart's done students, if they have to switch out a mask, we have lanyards where we would clip them and the lanyards would be around the neck and then the mask would go inside the shirt. And that way you're preventing the contamination of the masks as well.
Okay, thank you. The other comment the comment that I had was, to my understanding, the band would be indoors, right? And coming from the board, being that I'm a board member, I would have kind of a hard time explaining to parents and students and everybody, how can we let one group participate and practice indoors and the other groups we say no to? And that's all the comment I had. Thank you.
If I can just interject real quick, I was just sitting here thinking, one of the things that we can possibly look at also is, I know it's going to be a really heavy cost to furnish those air purifiers for all the school district, but maybe in visiting, when hopefully we can get a response. I'm going to call again tomorrow, but one of the things is maybe we can put those air purifications in the areas that kids are going to be in with their pods, and for example, like in the band room, be able to get it in there and get those things set up. I mean, our HVAC person can do them. We don't have to have anybody else come in and do the work. Our HVAC person can come in and put the air purification systems in the ducts. So I don't know, maybe that's something that we can visit about and see if we have the money to put them in the areas that our kids are going to be in, like the gymnasium, the band room, the little gym, and things of that nature. Maybe we can do something like that. I don't know what the cost will be totally, but we can run by and see if we can afford to do that for the ones that are going to be in the pods. Just a food for thought.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin,
No.
Mr. Guadiana,
Aye.
Mr. Gomez,
Yes.
Mr. Cordova, Mr. Cordova,
Yes, I was muted. Sorry.
myself, yes. Motion passes 4-1.
41.
Okay, moves us to item D. Mr. Mendoza. Item D.
Yes, sir. It's the second semester just right around the corner, but the governor's order, we can't do anything until after the 18th. But I'd like to recommend here that we consider continuing on remote status at least through the third quarter, which is March 11th, but at the same time be reviewing on as we go through during the board meetings, how we're doing in terms of our county and what color we are and where we are in terms of being safe to come back. But this is so that we can let the teachers know right now that we are going to continue remote until further notice. And that is the recommendation of the administration, Mr. Sepulveda and board members.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I move, this is Gilbert.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second.
Cordova, second.
Second by Mr. Cordova. Any questions, comments? The only comment that I have is, if we go through March, that only gives us 2 more months for the rest of the school year. So that's one of the things that we can consider when we bring it back in March. Okay. Any other comments?
I would just like to make sure that we still have the option to reconsider each board meeting as we have been prior to that March date. So if things really turn around and, by some miracle get better, then we have the option to, per the guidelines of the state and everything, that we have the option to reconsider our decision.
Yeah, Board Member Holguin, that's part of the motion that I asked for, that we review it and see how we're doing as a, first of all, as the county and the state.
And that review would be in January, correct?
Correct. It'd be every board meeting from now on until we're okay to move on to another situation. Thank you, Board.
Okay. Call for the vote, Mr. Holguin.
Yes.
Guadiana.
Yes.
Mr. Gomez.
Yes.
Mr. Cordova.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion passes. Brings us to finance.
Okay, Terry, please review of bills.
Mr. President, members of the board, you have in your packet the review of bills. Those are from October and November. If you have any questions on any particular item.
Ms. Holguin, this is Gabe. I do have a question. There's a couple of line items in there for Bethia Hemphill,
Yes.
and I was just wondering what those were.
She's still providing psych services.
Okay.
But why? The
Okay.
name,
What's that?
the name isn't, I'm not familiar with the name being Bethia.
Bethia Hemphill is her official name.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that. I don't know if Gabe had any more questions on that.
Other questions on the bill?
No, I didn't have anything further on that.
I wanted to request information that there's no description on it, and that's the Bank of America ones. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 entries, and 7. Sorry about that. So if I could get information about that separately before the next meeting, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Mendoza.
Okay, the administration recommends as presented by Terry that you approve it, and that Mr. Guadiana's request be noted in the minutes that he has requested the Bank of America checks backup. Is that correct, Mr. Guadiana?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's the recommendation.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Gomez, so moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second.
There. Second, Cordova.
Second by Mr. Cordova. Any other questions or comments? Call for the vote. Mr. Holguin.
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana.
I still abstain, given there's no certification by that I've been asking before.
Mr. Gomez.
Yes.
Mr. Cordova.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion passes 4-1. Okay, moves us to Superintendent Report.
Yes, sir, we have elementary failure reports. Mr. Nelson, can you start out, please?
Sorry about that. Give me a second. I am glad to say, I'm happy to say that our failure rates have decreased. We've gone from a 27% failure rate to an 18% failure rate. A lot of those failures are not in core classes, and a lot have to do with students' lack of attendance. So we have, we've done a initiative here at Central to reward. It's more of a positive behavior support type of system where we start rewarding the students that are doing what they're supposed to. We are look at certain criteria and then we apply points to that. Some of that criteria is, are they on participation? Are they turning in their work on time? Attendance? Are they completing their online programs like iStation and Moby Max? So we have this criteria, and what we've done is every day the teachers go in there. If the students complete that criteria that's required of them, they go in and they apply points to each of these kids. And at the end of every month, we try to do it. We're going to try to do it about every 3 weeks. We have an awards assembly where the kids that meet 80% or more are entered into a raffle, and then they will be raffled out a prize. And then, of course, everybody else and all the other students are also going to be rewarded, not necessarily the big prize, but they will also be rewarded for doing what they're supposed to. So we've taken a positive behavior, it's called PBS. So we're taking that and kind of modifying it for what we want and the desired behavior, and we're not necessarily focusing on the negative behavior. I mean, we address it. Obviously, we do address it. We're constantly checking attendance. We're making phone calls. We are using our attendance person as well, and making contact with parents as much as we can to ensure that these kids are getting on. Having meetings to support parents in whatever way we can. If there's technical issues, we try to walk them through it. So happy to say that we're moving in the right direction. Sorry, that was a mouthful and that was fast, so I apologize.
Thank you, Nelson, and you guys keep up the good work. Any questions, board member of Nelson?
Mr. Diaz, what is our normal non-COVID year failure rate?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have those numbers. But I more so can speak on the attendance. We're usually at about 95% attendance or more. Our attendance isn't as great. It's not there. It's going up, but I couldn't. I can get you that information, Mr. Regan. I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me, but being that this is the first time that I've had Central, I don't know how to answer that. I can tell you, like, fast experience as a teacher, the failure rates might have been 1, maybe 2 kids that had an F in the class at one time, because we were able to have them in our hands and they'd be able to work with them here. So failure rates are obviously not as high.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Failure rates that we're seeing is not that the kids are capable, it's that the kids are not showing up. Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
All right, how about you, Mr. Corey? Are you on?
I think Mr. Guadiana had a question there.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I had a question. And so the reports are coming from each individual elementary school?
Yes, we're going to have each principal present.
Okay. Mr. Diaz.
Yes.
Have any technical issues come forward as being contributing factors to people's not participating, or the format itself in being somebody that might be more successful in person versus online?
I think the answer to that question is yes. I think there's always going to be contributing factors. Technology is one of those now. Whether it's from our end as teachers or it's whether it's their end, we do see that learning is much slower in this type of situation. We do see that it's more frustrating, not just to students, but it is to parents in general. So yes, I think the situation is harder. We do have technical concerns that happen on a daily basis. We have instructed our parents to let us know right away and to see if it's something simple that we can walk them through. There was one time it was simple enough as, there was Chrome had pushed out an update and there was a little dot that we hadn't seen. And it was as simple as clicking on that dot. So yeah, I mean, there's always challenges when it comes to technology. Is it a contributing factor? Yes. Is it the only factor? No. So
in terms of, if you can make any kind of assessment as to what degree it is, how much of the 18% that are failing might be contributed, at least in part, by technology?
I would say 4 to 5%, maybe.
And do we get support that goes out to the parents if in case they're having a difficult time, or the student in case they're having a difficult time?
We do have somebody here, usually that is our technology champion that we try to go through first, because we know that our tech department is bombarded constantly. So we do try to, if it's something as simple as sometimes just, did you charge it today? Did you check your emails? It's the link's there. Let me send you a new link. So those types of situations we try to address right away. Now, there are some situations that we can't, the computer's not turning on whatsoever, or they have some internet connectivity issues, that we can't help, even though they have a hotspot. So those are situations that we can't necessarily fix, but we try to fix the little things on a daily basis.
So in the ones that you can't fix, what happens?
So we make a referral to the tech department. There's a form that we fill out that we send to them, and then usually what happens here, and the process might be different at other schools, is that I have them bring me the computer or whatever the device, and then at that point I fill out the form and then I take it over to the tech department, and at which point if it's not working, they give me a new one, or a replacement or a loaner, until they're able to fix it.
Okay. And regarding the percent of people failing, what is the outlook? I mean, what do you forecast in terms of them completing the year successfully or unsuccessfully?
We try to make sure that we provide every opportunity that we can for these students, right? Whether it's hold off to turn in work or extend the deadlines, things like that, things of that nature that we can control. Getting on the phone every day with parents to let them know your child didn't attend. They necessarily didn't attend. They might have attended English today, but they didn't go to math. So there's a concern there. Or they went to both language arts and math, but they didn't go to bilingual or PE. And a lot of those grades are based on participation. So a lot of it is, because our kids are so young, a lot of it is kind of what the parents are willing to do. An example is I had a student that had missed an entire week. So we finally get a hold of mom, kind of go hold of parents, finally did. And the excuse was simply, I didn't want to put her on. So those are some of those things that we can't control, but we address them. We continue to try to address them. We continue to try to provide those opportunities, but ultimately we can only provide opportunities. And then, parents and families have to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, and on parents' defense, sometimes not having somebody to stay with them while they need to go do something else is not an option. So it's a very difficult circumstance.
Right.
And so The question I was really looking at is how many are you contacting in terms of parents saying your child is at risk of failing the year?
I spent the whole day today going through and having those conversations. So I have this whole week we are going through, and we have about 20 more meetings that we are going to have to meet with parents to just kind of let them know, like, where are you? Here's the situation that you're in. What can we do to support you? If it's attendance situation, what is going on? You're having technology issues. So we do address those as frequently as we can, but we want to make sure that we're hitting everybody right before we leave so that come January, we're ready to go and we can support the parents with the new semester. So we do take those things into consideration. And of course, every school does it a little different, but that's how we've addressed it.
And the last question, if there was something that could make it easier for you and for the students and for the parents, any other kind of support or equipment or anything else, do you have any such inclination that can help you guys succeed?
I asked that same question to my parents after we have these meetings, and we're all at a loss because I think teachers are going above and beyond. I've heard about parents that are doing, just crazy things to try to support their students and being a teacher themselves. And I think at this point, I think we are doing a lot. I don't know that on our end, maybe, I don't know that the teachers are really screaming for anything in addition that's going to help them be better teachers. I think the teachers are providing opportunities. They're meeting with kids in small groups. They're making multiple contacts daily with parents, whether it be internet or class dojo or phone calls. So I can't say that there's something out there that's glaring. I said the one thing that would make this whole situation easier is COVID disappearing and we getting our kids back.
Granted.
Granted.
It's granted.
So I appreciate that question though, because we're looking for different ways to try to help our teachers and our parents and our families.
Well, thank you very much, and the teachers, for all you do.
Thank you.
Michael, Corey, are you on, Michael?
Yes, sir. So out at San Lorenzo, the first 9 weeks, we had 5 students in core classes receive Fs. And we had 5 students in special classes receive Fs. And my current data right now for this 9 weeks, I only have 2 students right now that have Fs in core classes. And then in special classes, actually currently my number's a little bit higher, but the special teachers have been reaching out to those students and again, offering makeup assignments and any of those things to help students in their grades. It's surprising to me, very few families are taking advantage of that. And the makeup assignments I've checked with the teachers are not difficult. So again, I mirror Mr. Diaz. Is our job is to provide the opportunity. Their job is to take advantage of that. And certain families choose to do that. Certain families do not. So San Lorenzo, that's where we're at this moment.
I have a question for Mr. Corey.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Corey, you said 2 people currently are in core classes that are failing, but you didn't give. I didn't catch the number for the special classes.
I didn't give you a number.
Okay.
The first 9 weeks, we had 5 students.
Yes.
And currently, right now, I think we are at just under 10, actually.
Wow.
In special classes. But of course, I went back and said it's not from lack of effort from our teachers, because these students have been contacted, families have been called. You'd be surprised some of the answers we get. Some of the families just say, by the afternoon, my student is done, and if you want to give them an F in PE because they don't show up, go ahead. And I don't know what to do with that. So, you know, again, I go back to our job is to provide the opportunity. Their job is to take advantage of it. You know, and families are in difficult situations. They're having to make hard choices sometimes, and maybe by the afternoon, maybe they are done. And a parent says, you know, we're doing the best we can. And that's all I ask as a principal too. And sometimes, you know, we have to give a little, and I just tell them, please just do the best you can.
You had 5 in the core at the beginning, and now this next 9 weeks you have 2 core. Is that what are they the same core? Is it a particular class, or is it spread across the board?
It's spread across. In fact, the 2 for this 9 weeks are actually both kindergarten students, which is extremely surprising. And they're actually doing well in language arts. These are both math. They're failing their math grades, and it goes back to they are turning in no work. They're actually present in class, but they have not turned any work in. And we've been ultimately flexible on this as far as we've had them take pictures of it, they've had them email it to us, and we've even had families that had difficulty in both of those, and we said, bring it to the school and we'll put it in for you. And so we've done everything we can to make it as easy as possible for families to do it. But we can just, again, offer the opportunities.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cor.
You bet.
Ms. Martinez, are you on? Ms. Martinez?
Yes, sir, I am. Good evening, Mr. President and board members. Last quarter, we were at 5% in our failure rate. Right now, we're sitting at 19%. I have been talking with my teachers. We've been monitoring this all 9 weeks. We've had several meetings. We've completed all of our STAT meetings for the year. Now, these past 2 weeks, we've been having other meetings for kids that are failing, and we've developed specialized AIPs, academic improvement plans, that are solely work around work ethic and accountability. And so in these meetings with the AIPs, teachers share a responsibility. They commit to doing, this is what I'm doing for your child, which means they're putting even more time scheduling small groups, scheduling one-on-ones with them. And then there's another part where the parents have their responsibility. They are going to do this, this, and this, and then what the students are going to do. What we're finding is, you know, teachers are doing an amazing job providing extra lessons, extra meets, differentiated assignments, different things. And so what we're finding in these meetings that we're having with some of these parents is like, they told me they did it. They told me they did it. And so what we're telling them is that, you know, they have to go that extra step and check their emails, check their Google Classrooms, because kids are going to be kids. And so what we've been explaining to them is that what our transition has been, which was in the spring of last year when COVID first hit. It was new to all of us. We didn't really hold everybody accountable for things. We were being very, very gracious with everybody and just really focusing on the social emotional, getting them on, just sticking together and getting through that time. Okay, now we go to the fall, and I talked to parents like it was, so in the fall we upped our expectations for everybody, for admin, principals, parents, students. Okay, now you're going to have to get on classes. Now you're going to have to, you know, turn in work, but we do understand you don't have Chromebooks, so we're going to give you grace. And we did, and we let them know that. So that first 9 weeks, we understood that, we worked. Okay, now second 9 weeks, you have the Chromebook. We have everything in place. You have great support from our tech department. They've been amazing. They meet with my parents all the time. They're on the phone with me and parents. So we have a great, great relationship with tech, and they're doing an amazing job with our parents. So I said, second semester, our expectations go up from everybody, from the top to the bottom in our district. And so now we're holding you accountable. You have these Chromebooks. You need to get on. You need to submit. Same thing like Mr. Corey said, you can Google Classroom, you can take pictures, you have packets, you can bring them by the school. We're providing all those opportunities for them. And so these meetings have been really good. And so we're just as you all hold our feet to the fire, I have to do that with my teachers. I tell my teachers, we may be on virtual learning, for a while. We have to get better. We can't be stagnant. We have to get better. It's the same thing I'm telling my parents. We just have to get better. We have to be more structured. So that's what a lot of these AIPs are, is a reset. I said, let's do a reset. Let's be structured. Let's have time management. Let's start getting good work habits for your kids. And so I think a lot of parents need to hear, this is where you need to go. These are the steps you need to take with your children at home, because that's where our failing is coming from, is just not turning in assignments. I think our attendance is pretty good, but just turning in assignments. So what I anticipate is that even though we're at 19%, based on talking with my teachers today, especially my core teachers, I think we can bring that down to 5%. By the end of the week. I'm hoping, of course, that we get 100% that are where they need to be. But on the track that they're doing right now, my teachers are putting in even extra hours this week just for those kids who just need to turn in assignments. So sometimes it's as easy as doing a Google Meet, and they're just on the Google Meet watching their kids complete assignments. So, I'm in awe of our teachers and how they have bent over backwards and are really working with these parents. And these meetings have been really, really helpful. And Tony has been a really great asset as well. And I think that we're on track to like I say, getting that 5% by the end of the week. Just to also piggyback on what Mr. Corey was saying, enrichment classes, those are a little bit, our attendance isn't as good as the classroom classes. The classroom teachers, they have our kids trained. I mean, they have them all on their cell phones and they call them up, say you're not on class, and those kids jump right on. Or they call the parent right then and there and say your child's not on class. Okay, I'll call home. So I think that we've established a really good system with our parents to call them immediately to let them know that they're not on. So that's been really helpful too. And so with enrichment classes, like Mr. Corey says, we provide those opportunities, and basically they just have to show up to enrichment classes. And some just are like, I don't want to go, or it's a long day. And so but our enrichment teachers they're doing the same thing. They're offering a lot of extra credit for them. It's been posted on their Google Classrooms. We've been talking about it for weeks. Their core teachers announce it to them, and so it's up to them to take that opportunity. But that's where we're at with Hurley Elementary.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Any questions?
Yeah, I had a question in terms of from 5 to 19% and hopefully back down to 5%. Are there any consistent like core classes or anything else that needs to that you can get some assistance, or are there enough additional staff? I forget the terminology used for describing a person that does more math emphasis or English arts, language arts specialists. Interventionalists.
Our interventionists, we do have an interventionist, and those kids are attending those classes. He is taking attendance for those. So he has good attendance with those ones. There's typically with our attendance, I could say it's maybe like 4 or 5 families, that have in multiple grades. And so those are the ones that Tony is helping us out with. Those are the ones that we're reaching out and providing the, pairing up with Engage New Mexico, where they're going to provide an academic coach and offer other resources to them as to maybe why they can't get on, why they're not attending, or why they're not doing certain things. So a lot of it is just them not completing work, not that they can't do it. It's just some of them don't have that adult person at home that is going to be there helping them out. So that's why my teachers these past 2 weeks have just been setting up Google Meets and just sitting there watching them. Okay, do this work. Okay, you have this assignment missing, get it out. Okay, start working on it. And they do it right there in front of the teacher. But you know, the teachers only have so much time in the day, and so that's why we're really trying to connect with parents to let them know, like, we need their help. This is a team effort. It can't all be on the teacher. And so that's where we're at with that.
And the same, and I should have asked this of Mr. Corey as well, but the same question that I asked Mr. Diaz is there anything that can be provided that will make your job and the teacher's job, as well as the parents and the students' job, easier?
I'm kind of in the same place as Mr. Diaz. One thing that I'm super excited about is, you know, the district really taking that initiative to finding those extra hotspots for those families who already have one that need another because their internet is so strained. And we've identified those kids who need additional ones. And I think our district has done a phenomenal job of like being on it when it comes to their needs as far as tech and things like that. So I'm looking forward to those families getting that. And when we had to submit those names, you know, I called each family personally to, you know, ask them these questions. And they were like, they were so appreciative, like, yes, we have a hotspot, but we do need another one. There's 5 of us. I'm working from home and my husband is. So I think we're just knocking it out of the park with how we're trying to support our family.
Very good. Good to hear.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Ms. Chavita, are you on?
Yes, sir, I am. Okay, well, I'm excited to announce that at Bayard, we have decreased our failure rate. In November, we reported a failure rate of approximately 21%. That was at the beginning of November. And now we are at about 8%. And that is about 13 students, and mostly in the upper grades, 3rd through 5th. We do have a couple of kinder kiddos that are struggling based on competency, not based on what they're turning in, but more based on what they can do. I did not put those in the failure rate yet because, again, I'm basing that off of competency, and we're working on seeing what we're going to be doing with those kinder kids. I think I can ditto everything that the principals have said so far. But one of the main factors, the significant factor contributing to the failure rate of these 3rd through 5th grade students, it's not necessarily tech, it's the support from their family members, right? They're lacking that parent support for them to finish their work and turn it in. And even those older elementary kiddos that are in 5th grade, they need that parent to say, did you turn in your work? What work do you have to finish today? And if they don't have someone next to them or that day going to them daily saying, did you turn in your work? It's not going to happen. So the reason why these 13 kids are failing, it's because they haven't turned in their work. And so I feel that at Bayard, we have been relentless in offering these families interventions. And my teachers have gone above and beyond, and we have been on many Google Meets. When we were able to bring in kids for our at-risk kids for support, for in-person support, we did, and we brought them in small groups. I think that was the best intervention we were able to do, because when we were able to bring those kids in, they did finish their work. And but we have a check-in service with the counselor. So the counselor, the first thing, if we see a student failing, the teachers turn in a referral to our school counselor, and the school counselor gives the family a call. And then from there, if we still see some more concerns, then of course Tony Sosa, our attendance officer, is our best friend. So the attendance officer has been doing a lot of home visits for me. And again, when I talk about these 13 students, we have done all these interventions already. They are already in the upper tier, in that tier 4, where, you know, we've already brought them in for service at the school. We have had the attendance officer go. We have had the counselor go and visit them. And so they're still, again, they're still struggling turning in their work. But again, I feel that we can bring that down to about 5%, because I have some kids still working, they're finishing some work this week. And I have confidence that we can bring that down before we finish the grading period.
Thank you, Ms. Chavita. Any questions, board members?
Yeah, I do. You mentioned, sorry there, Frank, but anyway, you mentioned 4th tier, and I'm not familiar with that term.
Well, we have our Attendance Success Act, and students are put into 4 tiers. And tier 4 is the last tier, which means we have, they've had all these other interventions, and they're on the 4th tier. So that these kiddos that we're talking about, these 13 kiddos, they're in the 4th tier.
Meaning that they're less likely to turn the tide around?
No, not necessarily, but we've already hit all those interventions already. We've done those phone calls with the counselor. We've done the phone calls with the to the parent. We've had those virtual meetings. We've had those check-ins already, and they're still struggling.
So there isn't a 5th tier?
No, there is not. There's not a 5th tier.
So what happens to them then now?
Well, the last resort is to, this is an attendance tier. The last resort is if they're absent, then they get a CYFD visit. But we also have tiers for Engage New Mexico, which are a little different. And they only have 3 tiers. And these kiddos are Engage New Mexico. They would be in a criteria. They would fall into Engage New Mexico, where they would be referred to this new partner of ours. They're an outreach coordinator, which they help us with attendance and with kids that are failing. And if they get flagged, if they're failing one course. So these kids have already been flagged for Engage New Mexico. So they've already been called by Engage New Mexico for support. They already have an academic coach. But again, Engage New Mexico is not a tutoring service. They're not offering tutoring. They're only offering a check-in service. So it's up to the school to offer the tutoring.
And along those lines, are you getting interventionalists or anything else that's necessary to help with that?
Yes, sir, we do. We have our interventionists who meet with these, with all these kiddos. Yes, sir, we do.
And again, if there's anything else that can be provided to make things more successful.
Not at this time. I feel we've exhausted, we've done all the interventions. It's up to the families now. They need to send in their work. The students need to turn in their work. If the students turn in their work, they will not be failing.
And my daughter goes to your school, and
Yes,
I know firsthand that we get told, and
Yes,
I
we
really
do.
appreciate how quickly that response is from the teachers. It's very, very helpful, and I'm very happy with what my daughter is experiencing there at Bayard Elementary.
Thank you, Mr. Guadiana. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Well, thank you, elementary principals. Thank you for doing a great job, and wish you guys well and continue moving forward. Mr. President, moving forward like us, our next item is Senate Bill 9 flyer. We had a discussion on the proposed flyer at the committee meeting, Mr. Guadiana, you'll recall. And at this time, Terry, can you comment on it, where we're at?
So we took the recommendations of the committee and made some adjustments to the flyer. This was late this afternoon, so this flyer was just, it wasn't ready for the board meeting packet or anything, but we can email the current flyer so that everybody can give it a thumbs up. But I think we made more specific the areas, you know, that we want to concentrate on and the things that are recurring. Because as we discussed in SB 9, there are recurring expenditures, which would be for maintenance and repair, custodial and maintenance supplies, and district-wide technology. So those are recurring, and we made them more specific in the area of future project needs to reflect that, because it wasn't real clear that those were recurring expenses annually. And then highlighting the projects that we had put in the flyer in the first place that have, you know, needs that we are already aware of at this point. So we'll get that flyer out to the board by tomorrow. I'll email that, and we can get that out.
Thank you, Terry. Any questions from the board?
Terry, one of the goals is, and you're probably headed that direction. I just wanted to ensure that we're trying to come up with almost $400,000 of expenses to cover per year. Certainly the 2022 to 23 is very small. And when we're asking for that much money per year, I think it is a better marketing strategy to not have such a big gap in terms of what it is we're listing we're going to do versus the amount of money that we're getting.
Right. So what we did is because there's roughly around 50,000 historically over the last couple to 3 years of either building improvements or ground improvements, that kind of thing. So we specified building and ground improvements with a certain amount, including, you know, let's say for 21-22, including in 21-22 Cobre High School daycare facility roof repair, and then Hurley Elementary roof repair, Bayard Elementary roof repair, and San Lorenzo intercom system. So those all fall under the category of building or ground improvements, highlighting the total and then specifying underneath it so that it didn't look like, you know, we were only doing projects for like 18,000, 3,500, whatever, and not coming up to the total that we generate or expect to generate over the course of the next 4 years.
Yeah, and in any of the years, we're not really close to 400,000. So
right, but now on this new one, we are.
Okay,
good. We did.
That's where I hope we get to. And
right.
If we lose the graphic of the books and the apple, I'm perfectly fine with that. I really think you can sell it by.
So Gordiana, you can be sure it's off. I mean, we have to get that out of there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
Mr. President, thank you, Terry.
Thank
Mr.
you.
President, the next item is just reminding the board that on January 11th, it's our next board meeting, YouTube live stream, and that's the next one. Going on to student representative report. Oya Ortiz, are you on, please?
Yes, I am.
Hello, it's good to see you. No, I don't see you.
I don't really have a report this week, just a question. Would it be possible to make student testing like mandatory for athletics just to have that little more safety and security?
Are you talking about COVID testing?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Ooh, I'm not sure we can go with the students. I don't know if they'd allow us, but it's something we can ask the nurse and have them report. Maureen, are you still on?
Yes, sir, I am.
Yeah, did you get the question from Toya?
I did, and I will definitely research that for you, Toya, and find out if that's a possibility.
Okay, just
Yeah.
because as a student, it helps feel a little more comfortable going out and being with different people.
Some of those things, though, we need to get parent permission for.
Correct, and I know that that's been discussed by many parents. That's been brought up by many parents asking if that could be a way that we could get sports going again is by the students agreeing to be tested as well as the coaches. And so I know that's been brought up by some parents. So that is certainly something I can research and find out.
Just to add to that a little bit, this is Mr. Diaz. So that conversation has been had at the NMAA with the other athletic directors around the state. And the general answer has been no, that we cannot mandate people to do that. Now, if kids choose to do that on their own, that's up to them, but we cannot mandate that as far as NMAA is concerned.
Thank you, Nelson.
You're welcome.
Anything else, Toya?
No, that'll be it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mendoza.
Toya. Public input. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Cordova.
It'll come under public input.
Okay, we're on public input.
Okay, I've got a kind of a little report to make since nobody brought it up on February the 3rd and 4th. We had a meeting in Albuquerque, a training in Albuquerque. It started with the board of directors, which was from 10 to 12. And they talked about the board trainings coming up, which is February the 10th and 13th at Santa Fe. The March 23rd is the Region 8 meeting at Lordsburg. April the 10th and the 12th is the National Convention in New Orleans. June 3rd and 5th is the School Law Conference in Albuquerque. And June 15th and 16th is a retreat, and it's either at Taos or Cloudcroft. The other things that they talked about, the scholarship program is still on, and for this meeting, they charged everybody $100 for the meeting. And since we didn't travel to Albuquerque, we're here at our house. The $100 went to the scholarship fund, and they're still going to provide 3 scholarships per region times 8 regions of $1,000 each. They talked about the policy program for public schools. They talked a lot about COVID testing, and one of the things that they did cover was exactly what you guys were talking about now for students. And they talked a lot about the upcoming 60-day session. We had a training on that. Now, this was on Thursday. Now, to start off on Friday, I need to make a congratulations for our board president. He was awarded the 25-year service award by the state of New Mexico. Congratulations, Toy. And they said there that you probably have 25 more years left for you to serve. The other training that came, and it should be at the school administration, or it should be getting there this week, is there was for the hours of training, Toy had an exemplary. Myself, I had exemplary. Mr. Guadiana had level 1 and level 2. So the certificates and the pins will be mailed to the school. So congratulations. There was a lot of other awards that were given. We did not get any, but congratulations to Toy. The breakout sessions, the first one was student behavioral and mental health support for COVID-19. And they talked a lot about social and emotional support when adults need to provide for their students and how students are responding, and they talked quite a bit about the suicide rate at the state. The second session was the news and social media advocacy, and they talked a lot about the news and social media that the board members need to get out the message of the good news that the schools are doing. They need to get this out to the public. They need to get this out to in the form of communication to the radio stations or TV. And they said the big thing is have a plan. The next thing that you need to do is who will be the spokesman for the board. And the next thing that you need to do is speak to the plan and not to any of the gossip that's going on in your district. The third and final one that I attended was the legislative 60-day session coming up. And they talked a lot about the lobby and strategies for how we're doing it, the 60-day session, how we are doing it since there's nobody going to be allowed to the roundhouse. Obviously, they're working at other things that they need to do. Who will be at the session or how will the session be this year? Nobody knows. And they talked about board members that go up there to have a vision, structure, accountability, and advocacy that you talk to these legislators. And one of the things that they did say, they said a lot of the board members go up there. They did not specify who or what or where, but they said a lot of us board members that go up there, we go to the particular offices to say hello to our representatives and our senators. They said, have a plan as to what you need for your school, whether it's money to build the new school, whether it's a new bus, whether it's some kind of computer stuff for the kids, or have a plan that you need to talk to about. And I think this would be something that comes from administration. And that being it, that's just a short report. I think that Irene at the main office has the breakout and all the tapes, everything that they put online from the training. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and I've already sent Diana Davis and Ms. Acosta some of the information on social media. And I talked to Diana Davis because I was looking through our policies and we don't have anything on social media for administrators or principals, a policy on that. We've got a policy for what students can do with social media, but nothing for administrators or that. So Diana Davis is looking through our policies. I could not find it, but she's looking through it to find if there is something or is that a policy that we need to make. And also to Ms. Acosta so she could look through it. And this is one of the awards that they sent me. I don't know if any of you can see it, but this is the award that they already mailed to me for the Service of Years Award. It's a Nambe plate. Thank you. Okay, items for next agenda, of course, we have everything that we tabled today. Anything else?
Sure, if I can just mention one thing, I just want to tell Mr. Corey, thank you for letting me know about that pickup that's coming up or the semi that's coming up. I made contact with the contractor. He is going to make contact with Muir tomorrow, see if they can't put that load on that truck. So I just want to tell Mr. Corey, thank you for letting me know on that. So hopefully we'll have the metal here on Thursday.
Okay, thank you, George.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I have none, Mr. Sepulveda, at this time.
We did have some public comments on the YouTube channel. They started right at the very beginning. I could read it, every single one of them out, or I could send them to you in an email.
Why don't you send us to us on email, and then I'll get them over to Mr. Mendoza.
Is,
Yes, sir.
isn't that a violation of the Open Meetings Act? Their comments should be heard in this meeting?
Any comments or questions?
Not necessarily, because if it doesn't pertain to anything that was on our agenda.
But we have a public input segment, and that should be afforded to them, and we give them the instructions that if they want to comment, they can do that by submitting their questions or comments via email.
Yes, they can.
So why wouldn't we hear them here?
You can hear them if you want to.
Yeah,
I would
they
like
were.
to.
They
The
were
rest of the board, whatever the rest of the board wants to do.
Yeah, it was
This is
during the
Gabe. I'd
time
like
that-
to hear him.
It was during the time that Mr. Guadiana was talking. So the first one was from Ana Treviso. She agreed that Mr. Guadiana. She did agree with Mr. Guadiana. Many issues are talked about, but nothing is being done. I also wish there was a plan to assist kids with failing grades. How is this matter being addressed? You know, that was very, very beginning of the thing. And then we had Horace Jaramillo. I'm asking if Power School program has a field entry to indicate if an assignment is turned in, but pending the assignments that are issued have an entry of new and a date due. The grade status has an entry of F until the assignments are graded. I would like to see real-time information on Power School. My question is due to current mistrust between the student, teacher, and parent. I'll add another individual, Juan Dominguez. I have a family member in the Cobre School District. I've had a wonderful experience with how fast support team responds. I am not technology interested. A team member assisted last night how to adjust my students' screen so they can read a site. Mail sent, link, 2 clicks. He took control, 9 p.m. on a Sunday. So kudos to this team. My same individual, my Juan Dominguez, my students, teachers are wonderful. Keep working hard. And then the last one is Ana Treviso again. A big thank you to all the teachers, staff, all employees working hard for the district. That is all. I will send it in an email as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Mendoza,
Yes.
is there a possibility to get a response to the question regarding Power School?
Yes, well, Victor, yeah, we'll get that. Yes, sir. Victor, to pick up that question from Mr. Guadiana.
Yes, I did.
Okay, we'll make sure we can get the response there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you send the response to the person that asked the question and CC the board, please?
Yes, we'll request the email address to provide that answer.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
Cordova, so move.
We adjourn. Yes,
Bye,
Irene.
everybody.
Did you have something, Irene? You're muted.
Items for next agenda.
Those were the things that we tabled.
Okay,
Okay?
okay,
All right.
thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank
Good
you,
night.
everybody.